Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the WADcast. I'm gonna kind of go a different way with the intro tonight because the WADcast stands for writers, actors, and directors, and right now, 2/3 of that are on strike. So, welcome to the Strikecast. I guess here we are. I am one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Mr. Waddy himself, Brandon.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Happy Friday night. It's good to be on the show and discuss something that's been going on for a few months now, actually, Josh. And it's been like all three of the letters in our in the WAD part of our name have been on strike at some point in the last few months, but the writers have been on the strike the longest.
The directors, they signed a deal immediately. They're like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, they got their shit right away. The studio's like, oh yeah, you guys are the most important ones. You make things happen. Anything you want, and they got what they wanted.
And somewhere there's a PA like, really? They're the ones that make things happen.
Yep.
Okay.
It's been interesting. It's been like an interesting couple months. I've got friends of mine in the Writers Guild. I am a former member of the Writers Guild. And it's not like for any other reasons other than that. Like I just was not making I wasn't really excelling in anything. But here's the funny part. Like with this whole thing, recently the SAG went on strike. Just midnight a few nights ago, they went on strike. And it was even to the point where the cast of Oppenheimer, if I remember right, actually walked out of the premiere for Oppenheimer in England, I think, right? Was it England or?
I'm not sure where the premiere was, but yes, they walked out during the whole thing.
Yeah, so I mean, they walked out. And as of right now, where it stands is, for the first time in more than 60 years or so, Hollywood writers and actors are striking at the exact same time. This is a rarity. It's like the planets aligning, seeing this happen. Now, the Writers Guild of America, it's been on strike since May 2nd. Back when talks with Hollywood fell apart, they decided to go on strike. SAG joined the strike, I believe, on the 13th of this month, following unsuccessful negotiations with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, or AMPTP for short, which represents major Hollywood studios like Netflix, Walt Disney, Hulu, things like that. So the last time both writers and actors went on strike at the same time was back in 1960 when they were pushing to get revenue from films that aired on TV. Because at that point, I believe they weren't making anything after it left the theater. So both writers and actors went on strike together to get these things moving. And I've seen people commentating on this, talking about how, well, the writers, they should just be happy that they had, it's not like they weren't broke already, like this yada yada. Well, they're broke for a reason. That's why they're on strike. Well, they knew the deal when they signed up for this stuff. They knew what they were getting into. Well, yeah, but deals change, times change. It's the.
You gotta love that. 16 years ago when they signed their other deal, that they knew when they signed that contract that streaming would come and take over everything.
Yeah,
they
right.
Knew that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's like, and I'm seeing people in the film industry, or even people that want to be in the film industry or pretend to be in the film industry, coming in and saying, we support we support the writers. We support, the studios. We support the AMPTP. Like, well, you're not really that's horrible. If that's where you stand because you just want to go see, you just want new movies to come cranking out. That's a horrible thing to say. And then you have the studios coming out. It never mentioned any names for the execs, but it was leaked that certain executives were saying things along the lines of, just hold out. They'll be broke enough soon. They'll be hungry. They'll be homeless, and then we have them. And here's the funny part: most of the Writers Guild are already broke people. They make a working class wage. Most times, it's very rare to have a writer that makes millions of dollars. That is a myth. There are thousands of members of the WGA. If not thousands, it's over 1,000, but there's plenty of people in WGA. I want to say like 95% of them make maybe $60,000 a year as full-time writers. Then you have the ones that are in it that are, and I'm not even going to do percentages because I don't want to be talking out my ass here, but you have 3 different classes of members of the Writers Guild. You have the top percent, like the top notch guys that get all the big studio contracts. And this does include directors. There are directors that do plenty of writing. So they're getting screwed too. They're part of this writer strike. They're unfortunately, even if they're in the DGA, they can also be in the WGA. I don't think people realize that, but that can happen. They could also be in SAG. It could be all 3. You don't know. It really depends. But you have the writers at the very top that make millions of dollars. You have the writers in the below them that make okay, not millions, but a couple $100,000. Then you have the people below them that make around $60,000 a year. Then you have below them that make even less. So it's really one of those things where not all of them are rich. A lot of them are struggling. Writing a script is more. It's not like you just go write something up and you just go, oh, I have a script. Oh, we'll buy it from you. It doesn't work like that. If you've never worked on a screenplay, I'll tell you right now, it is not. It's fun, but it's not easy. It's not just typing out something really quick. Writing a book is easier than writing a screenplay. In my opinion, I've written a book before. That was easier. So, the rule of the screenwriting. You have to show, don't tell. If a person's feeling any type of way, you can't sit there and be like, oh, this person is obvious. This person's very angry. They're seething. You can't really do that. So when it comes to these things, you have to really watch your wording. You have to really figure out how to get things apart. But what people don't realize is what the unions are demanding. Okay. And this is integral to the strike. Right now, actors and writers are both seeking increases in their pay as well as a greater share of earnings from shows that appear on streaming services. Both are seeking protections against studios using artificial intelligence or AI to the layman to replace their jobs. And people think, oh, well, they don't want the AI to write scripts. Maybe not, but they want AI to touch up on scripts and pretty much taking away jobs from the rewrites and everything else from the writers that wrote them. The writers have said that their pay has fallen in the past decade. So they're seeking a minimum contract of 6 writers and 13 weeks of work for each show, plus a 5% increase in base pay and additional compensation for hit shows on streaming, which they say studios rejected in negotiations. Additional demands by actors. That can also include compensation for auditions that they record themselves. So things like this. And, actors, when you're talking about AI, the studios are talking about using actors and using their faces for AI to where they don't have to pay these actors steadily for each time they use them as background. They can just go ahead and use AI to fill in the void and in future productions or in the rest of that production. Think of that DNA cartoon from Jurassic Park where he's talking about how they had a broken piece of DNA, but they just added something from a frog and they completed the DNA strand for these dinosaurs. They're pretty much trying to do that with AI right now. This is a big part of the strike. As you said earlier, 16 years ago when they went on strike back in 2000, was that 2008?
2007.
2008, so, people keep forgetting about that strike. There's a reason why the first season of Breaking Bad was only, I think, 5 episodes. It was because of the strike. So all this involved back then, we didn't have streaming. We barely had YouTube at that point. That's what we had. Christ, we still had MySpace back in 2007. So it's really, times change. Technology changes. Who the hell has cable TV now? Most people have the internet and streaming services. Excuse me. We want to watch TV. We just log into the live TV option. Scroll through it that way. So a lot of things have changed, and people don't realize that These are big problems for writers, largely writers, because residuals are different. When you wrote a script way back when it was pushed onto TV, you got paid different kinds of residuals. So if you got like if you were like the head writer, or if it was like your episode that you wrote, you got paid more money and you get like, fairly bigger residuals, but you still got residuals whenever the show came back as a rerun on TV. Now everything's on streaming. You can find any show you've ever wanted online. So it's just like, now with that being the case, people's livelihoods and their wages have pretty much been very largely affected by this. I've seen someone that we both know personally in Jacksonville that posted that he supports the studios because the writers are just crying and they're whining. Like, well, try being one. Try being a successful person in the industry, even like mildly successful in the industry, and then seeing pretty much your wages getting garnished, and now you have to really, you're panicking because this isn't someone that's just like, once you get into the industry, it's still risky, but these are people's livelihoods. These are their dream jobs. They got their dream jobs, and now they're working to keep them and get paid fairly for it.
Yeah.
So, if you got your dream job as, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, especially when it comes to acting, right? You got a lot of people commenting on there. I've read a lot of comments on social media today that, the actors are greedy and they're like, oh, I can't afford another mansion. And it's like, they don't understand that like 98% of acting of SAG is not, and I'm pulling the 98% out of my butt, but it's a large percentage. But
it's fun to just talk out your ass, right?
A large percentage of SAG acting is not movie stardom and television stardom. It is, the background actors, the bit players, the day players. You come in, you read a few lines if you're lucky, and you get paid, and then you try to find work somewhere else. The vast majority of the people acting are not doing so on the same project repeatedly. So if you get a regular gig, you're considered very fortunate. But the thing is, if you're not one of the big people on that gig, if you're not one of the main players on that job, when that job's over, you start from like square one and have to try to get your foot in the door somewhere else again.
Absolutely. 100%. And that's the thing. Like, I mean, and I've mentioned to you, I've spoken to you privately about this. I think I mentioned on the show, but I had a script that I wrote a long time ago. And this script was in the process of being optioned. I was waiting on the contract to come through so I could sign it. And that would have been the option. For those of you that don't know how an option works, it's kind of like putting a down payment on something and seeing if you really want to buy it later on. So an option for a script, mine was an okay size option. It would have like taken care of quite a few things I needed to take care of. But then I would not receive anything until the back end if they were to say yes or no. But then if they chose not to take it after, I think it was an 18-month option. If they were to choose not to take it, then all the rights would have, like they were still my rights, but they were pretty much like reserved for the studio if they decided to buy them. And then these rights would revert back to me fully, uninhibited, in 18 months should they not choose to buy it. In which case, the option would be 10% of the overall cost, and then I get the other 90% on the back end. That's what an option is. But then the writer's strike happened. I got the email 2 days prior. I did not get a chance. I didn't know I got the email. Went to my spam folder. I found the email, but that was the day the writer's strike was announced. So even though it was a pre-discussed option, if I were to have signed that option, without even being in the WGA right now, I may never get into it ever in my life. I could have been blacklisted if I signed that thing. Which scares me. Like, there are actually people. I'm in the screenwriting group that you also were in, but you left due to like the toxicity.
Yeah.
I guess like a bunch of absolute, not even has-beens, but a bunch of never was people.
Yeah, we're talking about not gonna name any names, but let's put it this way: I, who have not worked as part of a Hollywood kind of thing, right? I've never been in the industry as much as somewhere very farly adjacent, as independent filmmaking goes. That's where I've been spending my time. And at least I can say that when I speak, I try to speak from experience, and I try not to speak on things that I don't know about. And when it comes to production, when it comes to seeing your words come to life, I can say I've done that. And some of these people that are in these groups are very much, I aspire to be this, I aspire to be that, and that's fine. But when you're telling other people what they should do when you have done nothing, not even taken your own camcorder or your own phone to film your own words, I take umbrage with that. And when they want to be toxic towards other people that are just genuinely asking for help and advice, even though they literally have none to give, at least nothing helpful, and then they're so mean. Like, why are you asking a stupid question? Like, no, there's no stupid questions. You can refer them to an earlier thread where this was discussed. But let's face it, especially in like the movie addiction group, things get repeated a lot because you just can't be the guy that moderates every single post.
Yeah.
So that's why
movie addiction, they do a great job with movie addiction, but like with this screenwriting group, I don't even know who the moderators are. I don't know if there are any. But there's a few screenwriting. There's a few screenwriting groups, that are full of just toxic, no-named assholes that have never done anything. You have like this one guy that wrote a book, so everyone's licking his nutsack the entire time about like how, oh my god, like, I bought this book, it's the best book I've ever read, just because he's in the group. And they think that for some reason, and he's mentioned this, how he's been approached by people in the group about getting them representation or helping them sell a script. So I know why they kiss his ass so much.
And I'll even be the one to say his book is helpful.
If you can get past all the typos and grammatical errors, it's actually very helpful. I had to reread a lot of stuff in that book.
But honestly, it doesn't bring anything new to the table. You can find it in other places. But it was helpful.
Yeah, let me see. 1 second here. I will do something which is going to be, a little bit of a avalanche here. Have a little bit of an avalanche. Probably a little bit more. No? Okay. There are 2 books right now, ladies and gentlemen. If you ever want to get into screenwriting, there are 2 books that I will very much recommend. I am a very self-taught screenwriter. I've been writing since I was a kid, and I wrote my first actual script, I think, when I was about like 18 years old. 18 years old. I wrote a script for 9 to 5 Workaholics, the cartoon I used to do in high school. And that's, I think I mentioned that story where I got laughed out of Comedy Central when I pitched it to them way back when, because I had no idea what I was doing. I just got laughed right out. I thought they were laughing with me, but they weren't. When I went to college, I was introduced to David Trottier, The Screenwriting Bible. This is the most helpful book that I've ever read as far as screenwriting goes. And then if you want to read something else that's not as helpful but very, very much a good read, is The Hollywood Standard. A very good book. Now, this brings me into my next point here.
Hey, can I recommend something for the aspiring writers as well?
Please don't say save the cat.
I've seen a lot of people swear by it. I've never touched it myself. but mine's a little more, I think, a little more old school.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and add the link to a banner. Let's see. There we go. See, when I was learning about how to write these things, I went to a website called scriptorama.com.
Scriptorama. I remember Scriptorama.
And what do you do there? It doesn't tell you how to write. It doesn't tell you what formula to follow. No, it's just a place to go read scripts.
Yep.
And if you really want a way to learn the craft, you gotta read it.
Yeah, it's always study. Yeah, it's a craft. You study it. And that's what I was going to say. That's what brings me to my point. You may be wondering why I have textbooks about screenwriting. I have printed up screenplays too. I've got like books full of screenplays. I've got a book called The 10 Best Screenplays of the 1900s. I've got to find out where it is, but it's like a book like yay thick. And it's just 10 screenplays. That's all it is, with breaks in between. But this is why I feel so bad for the Writers Guild right now. It's because these guys, the successful ones, and I'm talking about success on any level, because you have to understand, even on the lower levels of success, like, successful writers, they are in a very, very, very small percentile of writers that have actually bled and, like studied and everything else and put themselves out there, gotten through pitches. And you want to talk about a nightmare? Try pitching something to people that are ready to kick your ass out of there. They don't want to sit there. They don't want to listen to what you have to say. They just want you to get to the point. Wham, bam, thank you, man. See you later. We got like 5 more. So that's what these guys do. So they have to study. They have to read. They have to work endless hours while they're working their day job. Write something down really quick and make some kind of notes so they can remember where that goes. There's a lot that goes into writing. I always have something like this right here. Even at work, I wear scrubs. I had this in my pocket along with my pen. You'd think I'd be using that to take notes on patients. No, it's for writing. I have my laptop cracked open on my downtime because I'm reading up on things, or I'm trying to write down ideas. I'm jotting down ideas. It is a nonstop thing. And Josh, I'm sure it's happened to you where you've been kept up all night long because you're stuck on an idea that you're writing. Like, it happens to pretty much anyone I know that loves writing. Now, there are times where you just stay up all night long, or even stare at a blank screen all day long trying to figure out what you're going to write. But moving on from that, though, other people are asking, well, you can certain things. No, you can't. Late night show comedians cannot write anything. They cannot do anything that's going to be added to their shows. Jay Leno, back during the last writer's strike, was pretty much brought up to I think brought to judgment, or brought before the head of the guild back during the last writer's strike, when he wrote and rehearsed his own stuff and said his own monologue on his show. So, but there's ways that this is going to affect the industry of the Writers Guild. It's going to drive most domestic film and television productions to a halt. So anything that's being filmed in the United States, the Writers Guild is in the United States. So anything that happens with the Writers Guild while it's happening, anything filmed through any kind of American company, especially on stateside on the U.S. soil, it came to a halt. With the exception of unscripted or reality TV show programs, which, come on, that's right. Reality TV shows are still happening. They're not really members of SAG. They're not. There's no actual writers on that. It's just more tampering with a situation. So they're not really affected. So don't worry if you like reality TV show trash. You're good.
Yeah, talking to the guy that's been on a 2-month Deadliest Catch binge.
Oh God. Well, don't worry. You're fine. You're fine for the next season.
And Big Brother starts in a couple weeks, so there's that.
Yeah, but the Writers Guild pretty much estimates that the work stoppage from the writers, it pretty much represents a lost output of almost $30 million per day. The last writer's strike in 2007, I think, lasted around 3 months. It cost the California economy $2.1 billion. Now, on top of just halting productions on shows, like the strikes also are going to limit film and TV marketing. Blue Beetle they just announced that they're not going to be doing any marketing while this strike is happening. So, halting production on the shows and like limiting film and TV marketing, actors can't promote anything if they're on strike. They also so they won't be going to film premieres, award shows, or any other events. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with the Emmys. Now, actors like working on like reality TV or game shows, they might still be allowed to work, but also they're probably going to feel the pressure to join the strike, at least in solidarity, because come on, it's kind of like two peas in a pod. One hand always washes the other in the industry. That's just how it works, despite what the studios think. Companies that primarily work with the entertainment industry, like sound stages, they're going to be hit. Talent agencies, they've started they have already started layoffs right now. Furloughs, pay cuts to offset costs. And some studios have stopped or pretty much they've stopped payments to producers. So producers are also, or reduced payments. Producers are going to be feeling this too. That's what I'm saying. One hand washes the other with everything. So this also means that future releases are going to be delayed. We can expect a delay in Deadpool 3. We can expect a delay in Ghostbusters, which hurts my heart. But we can expect a delay in that. We can expect a delay in pretty much anything, because you have to think reshoots. You have to bring the actors back on set if you need a reshoot. Well, if you need a reshoot, you're not going to have a movie on time.
Just starting their reshoots, and that's supposed to come out in 5 months.
What's that?
Aquaman 2.
Oh, yeah. That's not coming out until next year.
Well, that was supposed to come out, it was like 5 months?
I think so, but it's not going to make it. And it's not just with movies. It's also things that are going through Netflix. So as production comes to a standstill, networks and streaming services will be more reliant on a reality TV or other unscripted shows, because they're going to have to get these things out there. They're going to have to do something to make the revenue back. Some streaming giants like Netflix, still going to have content ready for the fall because of the length of time between production and release. So Netflix, they have something already done last a month ago that's going to come out this fall or from last year. Netflix is good. They're set. If it's their original content, they usually finish at least a year beforehand, or between 6 months to a year beforehand. So they're pretty much good. New seasons that are due to come out are probably still going to come out. New episodes are going to keep dropping that were already filmed and finished, like Secret Invasion. Some idiot on Facebook is well, if they're halted, then why are they still releasing these movies on streaming services? Because they're already filmed and you're an idiot. That's why.
Yeah. When it comes to streaming service, that's the case. When it comes to network TV, that's a completely different beast, because they shoot during the fall.
Yeah. And
right now, we talked about on the phone earlier that one of the things that the writers are tired of is doing the writers' rooms where they get a whole lot of stuff done before the production meetings. If I'm remembering correctly, excuse me. I've never been a part of a writing TV staff, so I'm trying to go off memory. Just my little disclaimer there. And right now it's July, and the fall TV starts September. You say?
Around September, November, new episodes come out. Usually between August, September, and November is when the new seasons are dropped. But yeah.
Basically, nothing is going to be written for any new season of anything.
Like I said, look at Breaking Bad from 2008 rather. It was delayed, and then it was pretty much half the season, and that was because of the writer's strike. So they had to just hustle and get this thing out there because FX was oh well, we need to get this out there ASAP. Was it FX or was it AMC? I think AMC. AMC. Sorry, Vince, love your show. But I forget who it was. But yeah, the strikes.
You could say it was on the Disney Channel for all I care. You watched it.
As he's over here, like just counting, I was like, that's okay. See, like the strike, it marks an end to like this whole streaming boom and everything else. Which like the streaming services, it really began in 2013, and it came out like it really started. If you want to get into it, it started with Netflix's first OG original series, House of Cards, with Kevin Spacey. Since then, streaming services have just been pushing out original content, like all the damn always. And right now, streaming services are at the end of a decade of recording production numbers. So it's like at the same time, the entertainment industry is facing declining audiences for traditional TV networks, losses from a new generation of streaming services, and that includes Warner Brothers, Discovery Inc., or I'm sorry, Max or HBO Max, whatever you want to call it, and Disney Plus. You have major entertainment companies have been cutting down staff over the last 18 months and pulling content off their streaming services as a cost-cutting measure. So, like, there's a lot that's been going on, which is why these strikes have been happening. So it's just like you have Netflix as like they're not making residuals on Netflix. They're not. So with their original content, once it's streamed, you got a contract. That's what you made, and even if it's super successful, they're not making anything more from it. And that is in their contracts, but those contracts go back quite a ways. So as time has gone on, things do have to change. Like you can't, I don't know how anyone can side with like, oh, well, we're making all this money off of your hard labor, and where you used to get residuals as a way to say, hey, thanks for helping us out. No matter how little the residuals were, if you're writing on like 5 or 6 different shows, you're making like at least like $4 or $5 grand a month easily. It's not great money. Not saying it is, but it's still money. You know, sometimes you can be making almost like 10 to 15 grand a month, even back in like the 90s as a staff writer. But you also had a contractual agreement for time, like how much you'd be paid, like, you know, for working on each episode for each day. You're paid. It's a staff job. But and here's the other thing, like people are talking about, like, well, why are they so worried about like AI with this whole thing? Why is that like a big thing? Oh, it's just AI. They're not really going to replace them. Well, no, here's the thing. There are valid concerns that AI could generate scripts without them. Chat GTP can write an entire book for you if you ask it to. There was a guy that got an AI program to write a children's book, and then got another AI program to illustrate it. He did none of the work, and he sold a lot of these books. I think I mentioned this on the show before. And since then, he's gotten sued by some of the artists from these images that were modeled after these original artists' works in their style. That's what AI does. It finds what it can and it creates this image. But for actors, there are concerns that studios could use AI to replace previous performances. You know, like the Directors Guild of America, which agreed to a new contract with the studios, got the companies to agree AI would not replace them. These are things that have actually been going on. But like, the primary focal point is like the issue of residuals. It's a major focal point for the Writers Guild of America during the strike, during the negotiations. And with the AMPTP, pretty much the two sides held their latest round of talks on the new contracts, and they are just like not budging. That's just where it stands. So I will say, Fran Drescher's been kicking some ass though, like this week. She's been out there like on the front line screaming pretty much about how, like, you know, it's just a travesty. Have you seen those articles?
No, I haven't seen any articles, but I did watch the, you know, live press conference of, you know, the strike announcement.
Yeah, like, I mean, she's killing it. But the Writer Guild West, and I'm sorry, that's another thing. There's Writers Guild of America East and West, one for the West Coast, one for the East Coast. Pretty much splits down, like, you know, between the center of the country and spreads outwards. That's their territories. They released an annual report that notes, like, for this year, the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2022. I'm sorry, last year rather. Total residuals collected by the Guild in 2021 hit an all-time high. The Guild's annual reports also show that the total residuals increased by, I think, 40. Let me look this up real quick. I think it was 50%, 48% from 2011 to 2021. So it increased from $333 million to right there, to $493.6 million. An executive director of the WGA, Charles Slocum, pretty much said the total residuals are higher because many more projects are being made, and a lot more are pretty much in reuse. The slashing of residuals is pretty much, it's on a pre-programmed basis. So, and the culprit is streaming. Pretty much where half of all series writers are working now. You know, all the streaming services. Mind you, all these companies that we had back in the day, like CBS, it was a TV station, right? Like Warner Brothers had a TV station. Fox was like a TV station. Disney was a TV station as well as, like, you know, a movie studio. But all these companies had TV shows that they were coming out that they had staff writers for. But now that they're streaming services, that's where most of the writers have gone. And now they're getting shafted because these were never, you know, in negotiations. It's kind of like what Disney did to Scarlett Johansson for Black Widow. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. That ended in quite the bit of litigation.
Yeah. And and that was a mess. It was like because she was supposed to get like a certain percentage of the box office, so they decided, you know what, we'll just release it as streaming. And you don't get any of that because it's not the box office numbers. That was messed up. But that is how studios work.
I mean, look at as much as I hate to say, look at Winston Groom.
Oh yeah,
the writer of Forrest Gump. He, again, trying to go off memory here.
The book, not the novel.
Huh?
Was it? He wrote the book, right? Not the. No, I'm sorry, the book, not the screenplay. He wrote the book, right?
Right. He wrote the book.
Okay, I say, I'm sorry, the book, not the novel. I'm sorry, the book, the novel, not the screenplay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you confused me.
Oh God.
Anyway,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Anyway, from what I recall, his, you know, when they were talking money, they're like, you know, we'll give you this much now, but you know you're going to make the majority of your money on the back end with the profits from the movies, from the movie.
Yeah.
So, you know, sign the deal and, you know, bada bing, bada boom. And everybody knows how much of a success Forrest Gump was.
Oh, yeah.
Big time movie, classic. Except it wasn't. Because the studio wrote it off as a loss. Because they used the profits from that movie to cover losses from other films, which means, again, trying to remember the details. If I'm not 100%, please don't at me. No, please do at me and correct me. Please correct me. But because it was listed as basically not profitable, that means he wasn't able to get a percentage of the profits because technically they didn't exist, which means he got shafted, which is why he wrote the sequel novel, Gump and Company, and basically ripped everybody a new one because in that book, the character Forrest Gump was like, oh, they made a movie about my life. It was awful.
Perfect impersonation. That was amazing. Bravo. Like, just
makes up for that Jack Black debacle.
Oh yeah, God.
Call back to an earlier episode.
Yeah, but no, and that's exactly it. Like, but that is an example of the studio screwing someone over to save some money. But look at what WB did to Batgirl. That was a write-off. That was a tax write-off. But you also have other things like I forget the name of the studio that did not the 2005 live-action Fantastic Four, but the one that came out in the 90s. That was made.
Corman?
Huh?
Roger Corman's Fantastic Four?
Yes. And he made that. The studio made that to where not that it was ever going to be seen. They made this feature film just to keep the rights to the material, just to keep the rights to the filming rights for it. That's the only reason why it was made.
Yep.
And I will say for what for a movie that they never intended to release, the work that they did on the thing was some damn good animatronic work.
Well, they're not going to tell, the crew and the director that it's a movie that's never going to be released.
Oh yeah, no, they made the whole movie. They took their jobs very seriously. It's not good. It's
They're
not
going
a
to
great
try.
movie. Yeah, it's not a great movie, guys. But you got to respect like what they did. But everyone got shafted on that project. People that were supposed to get percentages on the back ends of that movie, they never got because the movie was just never released. There was no box office draw from that movie because it was just shelved. I think someone in the production department or one of the whoever that had a copy of this movie leaked it onto YouTube. You can find the whole movie on YouTube right now. It's all up there, and no one can do anything about it because that company I think has since been disbanded or resolved. I don't think it's even in operation anymore. But it's like the studios do dirty shit all the damn time. And so when I see someone says like I stand with the studios, I'm going to say this this is my one per episode. Fuck you. Here's 2 per episode. Fuck you even further. Why do you stand with a company that absolutely does not give a shit about the people that work for them? That's horrible. You would not appreciate if the company was screwing you over with pay and what? I stand with your boss then because you know what you're getting into. Oh, they didn't give you a promotion? That sucks. That's horrible. I stand in solidarity with the people that are screwing you over.
There is I hate to say it, there's a certain political undertone to some of these things.
Oh yeah. This is the one time I will actually be one of the very few times I'll be happy to talk about politics on this show. I'm only seeing diehard conservative idiots that are going on here saying that they stand with the studios, but the studios they went woke a long time ago. They went woke, now they're going broke. Well, no, the studios are getting a hit, but they're going broke now. They're shitting themselves because of what the writers and the actors are doing currently, and what the directors already did.
Making money.
Yeah. Here's how it works, okay? Think of it like building a house. For you dumbasses out there that do not know, and I'm sorry for getting so offensive on this one. I don't really give a shit about the feelings right now, but it really, I have friends in the Writers Guild that are being affected by this, and I have to hear about it. Not that I have mind on telling me, but it's I feel bad to hear about what they have to go through.
My friends, they won't shut up about it.
I listen to them very valiantly. It's I wish there was something I could do, but here's how it works, okay? There's different layers of production. It's like building a house, but instead of building a house, there's a whole bunch of little houses that turn into a damn studio, a giant production house. But each house is built with a foundation. That foundation is the writers. You put a foundation down before you even build a house. That is the writers right there. Excuse me, sorry. Then you go into pre-production. That's pretty much that's the carpentry right there. Pre-production.
So we covered architecture, and now, how about pre-production is concrete layers? Yeah, concrete.
Well, that's all foundation. That's what I'm getting. That's what I said though. But then you have carpentry, which is it's pre-production. They start building things around it. At this point, the foundation's already done. The writing's already done. But then you have the framework that goes in. This is all and if you want to attribute that to screenwriting too, sure. But it's all pre-production.
Well, I say it's screenwriters, the architect, they draw up the blueprints. And it's up to the director to show up and interpret that as house.
But everyone else comes along after this is done, and they put everything else together. That's what I'm trying to say. And then you have a whole community. That community is the damn studio. That's how that works. Without these people doing their thing, you have nothing as a studio. You have a bunch of overpaid dumbasses like Bob Iger. You have a bunch of very overpaid pieces of shit saying yay or nay on things, and that's all they do. You and I have had someone like that before, Josh, who said I'm a producer. It was just yes or no. Even then,
I'm a producer, but if I have to do anything, I'm out.
Yeah, it's producing involves actually producing, but that, I guess it's easier to say that you're something that you just want to be instead of actually being one. But these people are not even producers.
Let me take the joke a little bit further, please.
Huh?
Can I take it just a little bit further?
Go for it.
Okay. I'm a producer, but I won't write. I won't try to find locations, and I certainly won't put up any money for it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's exactly what we deal with. But these people at the top are not even producers. They are not like anything other than just people that spend more time on vacation than anything else. They get paid very handsomely, millions of dollars a year, to pretty much be as useless as possible. All the hard work is done at the bottom. And I know that we're going to have some hate mail, especially me personally. I don't give a shit if you hate me or not. I really don't care. I sleep just fine. Well, I'm sorry. I sleep pretty poorly with or without your hate.
I will say this. There are some producers that go out there and do what some might call God's work, right? Finding the scripts. But of course, that involves finding scripts. Sometimes they find books and say, this should be a movie. And then they secure the rights and do things like that. The point is, yes, there are some people with the title producer, and especially in the world of TV, where if you're a producer, it's essentially you're a writer. In many ways, the point I'm trying to get to is, it's all about really the studios and what they're not willing to do to make sure the people that give them the ability to make billions of dollars are being just thrown to the wayside, trying to pay bills. And that is wrong.
Yeah. No, that's pretty much it. That's what it comes down to. This whole thing is a mess. I hope that it gets taken care of as soon as possible. I don't see it happening because, again, these studios are pretty much trying to starve their writers out of house and home before they even do anything. No, they flat out admit it's like they're going to go broke. They're going to not be able to pay rent or anything else, and then they'll come back to us. Like, okay, well, when they come back to you, are you going to pay them a shit ton of money for everything that they lost? Or are you just going to go try to find new writers who, God forbid, just like, oh, we'll just AI it up? Like, come on, man. You have the people that make your livelihood, and you're trying to screw them over. That's why I said flat out, and you know what? I've already broken my one per episode. I'll just say it again. If you support the studios, I've got to say a big old fuck you. I don't care if you like me. Again, I sleep poorly with or without your likes. I don't need your approval, but this is how it works. These studios are evil, greedy pieces of shit. That's all they are. At best, they put out like mediocre work as of late. Disney is relying so much on just making remakes of all their like original properties that you have companies like Illumination coming up and pushing them off with like better projects. But I digress with that. The thing is that these studios, they do not care about the crews. They don't care about the writers. They care about the people that they think are the most important, which are the directors and the actors. Directors are very, very, very expendable. Some of them have no talent. Look at what we got in The Flash. I'll keep going back to that piece of shit. But then you have other great movies that have come out, like Dread, it's a great movie. Did great like after it was came out with theaters and went to home release. You have a lot of movies that come out that are mediocre and that really didn't have to exist. But these directors of any level are so protected because they think that they're part of that same guild, and the studios think that all the directors need to be protected because they are the most important people in the world. They're not. They're really not. Some of them are okay, but the writers are the most important they're the most important asset to any production, because without the writers, there's nothing at all. So you don't need A-list actors to do anything. You can get actors off the street to do shit. You don't need A-list directors to do shit. You can get people off the street to do things. We spoke about this before. The guy that directed Lights Out, all he directed until he got his big studio gig with, I think, one of the Annabelle movies, all he ever directed were short films. He didn't handle millions of dollars. He handled a couple thousand. He's directed Shazam and Shazam 2. He's directed Annabelle Creation, I think, but he's directed movies that, did pretty good. Some did not. But the writers are the important part. They always will be. Without them, you have nothing. That's just how it is. So,
very true.
But here's what cracks me up: these guys are saying like, "Oh, well, they'll go broke." They're already broke. They're going to, writers are by nature survivors. I don't think the studio executives realize this. Writers are survivors. To get where they had to get to where they are, they had to do what they had to do to get by.
Do they not realize also that the signs that they write for the strike are going to be bangers?
Oh yeah, well, there's some pretty damn good ones so far.
The Simpsons writers are doing a great job, for sure.
But as far as everything goes, on that note, I do have to get out of here because I do have I have to be at work not too long from now, so I've got get shower, shaved, and everything else. But I will say this, ladies and gentlemen, just be mindful. If you have never worked in the industry, I'm not going to say you don't have an opinion, but your opinion is largely uninformed. If you have never worked for any kind of big studio or any small studio, and you're treated like, just like you're so dismissible, you are very uninformed in this whole situation. I recommend that you look very much into this whole thing, everything that's going on with these strikes. And I'm very much interested in us revisiting this next week, or at least periodically with updates. There's a lot that goes into this whole thing. And the writers are very much the victims of some very greedy bullshit. And if you're still on board with the studios, then you're, in my mind, just as much of a piece of shit. Sorry, not sorry. But yeah, on that note, Josh, do you have anything you want to close with, or because I do have to get out of here, buddy?
Actually, I do.
Okay.
I'm just kind of get this. Get this ready.
Okay.
I think that should do. Save. I'm about to put a graphic on screen.
Okay.
And I'll explain that in just a second. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I know I probably should have done this sooner, but we were having some technical issues. Like technically, my camera stopped working. That's why, my face is not moving. I didn't have a stroke. Okay, it's just a photo. So calm down, people. I thought it was funny. Screw you guys. Anyway, okay. There we go. You might recognize that image from our promotional material. So if you are interested in supporting the writers or actors that are on strike, I urge you all to go to WGAcontract2023.org or SAG-AFTRA strike.org or entertainmentcommunity.org. These are all valuable and important resources to show support, and they list on these websites the different ways that you can help, especially if you're not an actual member of either of these unions. You can join the picket lines. You can go to entertainmentcommunity.org and prevent these writers from starving to death. That would probably be very much appreciated. Yeah. So if and I'm not going to hold out, the bucket for them, as it were, but I will try to help point people in the right direction to help as much as they are able to, if they feel so inclined.
Yes.
And you know what? I'll even go as far as to say, you know what? Never mind that. It just amounts to nothing in the end anyway. So, I'm going to post this image to the WADcast Facebook page as well as the Wyco Media Facebook page. And hopefully, if just, one person is like, hey, those are the resources I could use to help out the writers and the actors, then I'll feel like we helped out a little bit. But at least we're the best we can do right now is help get awareness out through our platform, and hopefully it helps in some small way. So that's what I had to say about that.
Well, if being the case, I do have to go, ladies and gentlemen, but follow me if you want to send me hate mail. I won't give a shit if you do, but bjackman1982 on Instagram, but follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Send us more hate mail there. I've already gotten chewed out a few times by people in the past. But just facebook.com/the WADcast, and just type in WADcast, the WADcast, WADcast on Instagram. You'll find us on there too. There's a few other WADcasts out there, but we are the ones that are trademarked and protected. We are the ones that have a black banner with a black picture with a white banner that says WADcast in it. So give us a like, give us a follow, keep up to date with all this stuff. Like Josh said, he'll post a picture of that, all with all the links that you can go to help out. So that being the case, everyone, have a great Friday night. And as I said, I'm looking forward to us touching base on this, just periodically, not like a full episode, but just updates in the future. So, but unless something major comes up, we have to do another full episode. I think we pretty much covered a lot of stuff for this one. But I'm gonna let you do the Danny Tanner thing and give everyone a lesson on life. And I'm gonna get out of here so I can get a shower and get ready for tonight here. So you guys have a great night. Happy Friday. Have a safe weekend, and get all the sleep that I wish I could get. So. But all right, I'm going to turn it over to Josh here.
All righty. I guess it's just us, everybody. Sorry, I'm just getting that post ready to go. And it's posted to the WADcast Facebook page. You can also go to wadcomedia.com to find out all of the pertinent links and whatnot to, lend your support to us. We have a Patreon, but honestly, no, I don't point people in that direction. If you really feel like you want to throw down some ducats to support the cause here at Wadco Media and the WADcast, then I suggest you go to the merch area and get a T-shirt. I was wearing my shirt this Wednesday. Was actually asked about it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is great podcast that I listened to." Yeah, I just listened to it. I'm not on it at all. I later came clean and said that I'm one of the guys on the show. But WatchComedia.com. That's the way to do that. So this is normally the time of the day where I do a whole lot of other shameless plugging and all sorts of stuff. Tell you about, life and how you should just follow your dreams. And I usually have different music. But you know what? I'm changing things up this week. You're not going to get the same old message because it's time. It's time. Go to the WADcast Facebook page. Look at the picture with all the links of the way you can help support the writers and actors on strike. Go there. Go to those places. Join the picket lines. Let the producers know. Let the studios know that this is not going down without a fight. The writers and actors deserve their fair share. They deserve to be able to make a living doing the things that keeps millions, nay, billions of people happy and complacent. I would think if anybody was ready to get this strike over and ready for, all of the people of the world to unite in whatever harmony is left, then it would be those in the power, those with the power. If you want to keep your populace under control, get your writers and actors back to work. I know that sounds a little weird. Kind of a weird take on how to get people behind your message. But look, the fact of the matter is, if you're going to have a job writing, if you're going to have a job acting, you should be able to make not just a living wage, but something that lets you live instead of just survive. Live. We stand in solidarity with the WGA. We stand in solidarity with SAG. And we will do whatever we can to help. And hopefully we can help. That's it for me tonight. I'm Josh. The other guy was Brandon. This has been the WADcast episode number 139. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see